Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, welcome back to a new At the End of the Day. To my right, we have Matt Erickson from the King Pilled podcast and Discord that everyone should join up, and links in the description below. And of course, to my bottom, we have David Gornoski on. I'm not good at intros. From A Neighbor's Choice. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We have gathered here today to talk about our democracy and a few other announcements, and then, of course, get into a little bit of civilizational capital and begin the conversation somewhere where the conversation always begins, because it started in a garden and ends in a city. But before we get to all that, David, you, sir, have been making some announcements I feel we must address. I feel that we are breaking some news. You, of course, broke the news first, but I believe we can do a little bit of follow-up here and get your comments on this.
Hi, this is David Gornoski. You know me as a writer, radio host, podcaster, even a little bit of filmmaking along the way. And over the years, we've reached millions of people together, you and I. We've made a big impact. We've always talked about the biggest issues, the most fundamental human nature stuff. Things like, who are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? The big questions. But I'm not fully satisfied. You see, I've tried it the nice way. I've tried it the persuasion way. But I've come to realize it's not the critic that counts, but the man in the arena. That's why I'm excited to announce to you today that I have decided to enter the professional wrestling industry. Now, I know what you're thinking. That is a vicious, savage world. Do you know what you're getting into, David? Yes, I do. I've been doing my homework. Been doing a little bit of practicing. Here, I'll give you a little taste. Come here. Go ahead and tell people who you are.
My name is Wolfgang, and we've been working really hard.
Yeah, we have. We've been working really hard. Yeah, huh? Oh.
Now, sorry, I'm just cutting that in case we get flagged for the song. David, one quick question. And I know you may not be able to confirm or deny a whole bunch of these allegations or rumors. So maybe just blink once yes, once no, twice yes. Are you replacing Vince McMahon at the WWE board of directors?
Yeah, I cannot speak about that organization. What I'm doing is something that goes back thousands and thousands of years, which is ritual combat is at the heart of human civilization. You cannot have human civilization as we understand it without having ritual combat. So, you know, as someone who has been talking about these things for a long time, you know, I kind of put mimetic theory onto the podcast landscape and the Twitter world by extension, and been kind of a Johnny Appleseed about the concept. But if you want to really, you know, get something done at some point, when you want to reach the masses, you have to engage in ritual and liturgy. You have to engage in the arena. And so I can tell you about it all day, but at some point that's kind of staying in the same world that I've been preaching against, right? Which is, you know, if you're staying in the world of the mind. Now, of course, the mind is always important, and you better believe I'll be bringing my mind into that arena. But we've got to be able to incarnate with some action, you know? We've got to be able to incarnate with some, you know, some physicality. And so that's why I've made that decision. And it is
the ritual and the reality are one. And I can think of no better ritual than, of course, professional wrestling. In as Gerard said, all culture starts with a murder. And you know, I think you should get out.
Haven't done that yet.
Yeah, recruit some murderers. I think, David. Yeah.
Well, you know, if you look back at ancient society, it's, you know, we don't have any recordings of the spontaneous murder that Gerard postulates. What we have are ritual reenactments of it, right? And those dissipate through time, and they become all kinds of different rituals. And some of those trials by combat, you know, where you'd have two 15-year-old kids and they've got to have a duel with sticks, right? On sharp glass or maybe corn or whatever. And they have to hit each other with sticks, and everybody in the whole tribe watches this. That was a distillation of something that was thousands and thousands of years before it, which was a spontaneous, in the moment, collective murder, right? And so, but we don't have the original murder recorded. We have ritual reenactments of it recorded. We have remembrances of it recorded, right? And are in the form of what we call ritual sacrifice or prohibition punishments, and, you know, different types of dances. Dances are a form of, let's have controlled chaos for a moment, right? Let's imbibe the passions. Let's flame things up around the fire. Fire is always a primordial key element, and kind of symbolically representing the passions and love and murder and all those things. And you go through that, and then there's a consummation of it sometimes. That's why you got to watch out at bars, right? What are we doing at bars? What are people doing at bars, right? They have glowing lights, you know. Have you ever been at a bar? They have like glowing lights with those little Michelob lights and stuff. It's trying to emulate that kind of, we're gathering around the fire. And then you imbibe in these spirits, right? And to create this spirit that's either going to transcend into a bar fight for the release, or maybe sex or something like that. Those types of things happen at bars. So everywhere we go, and bars become cornerstones of the neighborhood, right? And those are just one example, but that kind of thing is happening everywhere around us. And we can talk about it, or we can do it. We can get in the game. And it might mean that people get injured. It might mean that people's feelings get hurt. But at some point, you know, we don't have much time. This nation is falling apart. Our nation is crumbling. And we see a kind of mindless violence seeping out all around us, because the structured forms of it are not containing. So something's wrong there. Something needs to be addressed there in that world. And not just talked about, but it needs to be addressed in that world.
Matt?
I was thinking how you're talking about the bar being kind of a continuation of the sit around the fire and tell stories, engage in combat, make babies, you know, this primordial center of society. And one of the things that I'd make the case that one of the things that happens at a bar, there's the old there's kind of like a consistent meme or a consistent trope throughout film and literature of the people who are plotting some kind of making plans for something, whether it's business plans or government plans or revolution or any of these sorts of things. Where do they go? They go to the tavern, they go to the pub, they sit there, they get their drinks, everyone gets kind of loosened up, and the guard comes down, and then we have a meeting of the minds. And that physical location symbolizes that meeting of the minds. And then oftentimes when you have that environment, out of it is born something new plans, a new the creation of a new institution. There's a birth-like process that's happening there, in the same way that a fight or sex or any of these other things, these are also symbolizing a death and a resurrection, a death of one thing and a resurrection of a new thing. The old order is behind. Each time you go to the tavern, each time you sit there, each time you get in a bar fight, each time you have a great party and a dance and a great release or any of these sorts of things, this is a ritualized death of an old order and resurrection of a new order. It can happen on the micro scale or on the macro scale. So in a sense, then the bar or the fire or the meeting place, the place where people come together, where they all meet together and everyone comes there for the same reasons, ritually over and over and over again. This is like the center of the social dynamic within a polity. and I know this ties in with some of the stuff that Jason and I have been talking about. I don't know if Jason's ready to go completely that direction yet, but hopefully I've kind of set
Let's
it
do
up
it.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's do it. I think some of the things we've talked about on the show recently is that the truth is not situational. For the truth to be truth, it must be true all the way up and down. That's what's a symbol truth is. It's a vessel of truth that everyone can automatically understand and recognize. One of the things we've been talking about on the show quite a bit now is this idea of civilizational capital, and where this starts is from the statement that we no longer live in a civilization. We don't live in a civilization anymore. We have the remnants of it. The trains still function and things like that for now, but as we're starting to see planes falling from the sky and other competency crisis issues, we are slowly in this sort of Western apocalypse. We're becoming more and more aware that things are not as they seem, and some people take this as a black pill, but I think by standing in truth, we can start to fix these issues and take them upon ourselves and go, okay, Western man, our job now is that if we don't live in a civilization anymore, to build a new one. I think a lot of these ideas, I think I'll owe to you, David, because when you came on the show last year and you began to talk about how our story starts in a garden and ends in a city, that I think started that mimetic process in my head of trying to work through that problem of, okay, well, how do we get to that city? And how do we generate that city in our lifetime? And it's not saying that we need to be God or we're going to outdo God or outcompete or build something better or whatever have you. It's how do we manifest these things constantly and in our lives, whether it's personal or out there in meat space. And as we start that process, we begin to do what we should do as Christians, which is modeling Christ. And manifesting Christ's work in this world.
Yeah, which is excellence, right? It's excellence, and it's understanding. Jesus was a performance artist. Is that okay to say that, or does that hurt people's feelings? Jesus was a performance artist. I'm just saying in general. Is that something? Is that scandalous? He was a performance artist, and he wasn't a philosopher that wrote a book, right? He was a performance artist. It's very important. Everything he says are usually the best of Jesus's, like, if you want to try to turn things into truisms that he does, it's usually like an action, like walk on water. That's not a sentence. He didn't say walk on water. Maybe, I don't know. He said, Peter, do it too. But there's no quote where you look up walk on water, period. Jesus, he said that. No, but that's what he enacted that. And so you remember walk on water, turn the other cheek. He said it, but he also was doing a visual demonstration of something that was a higher order principle that had application in a various different ways. Right. You see that those who live by the sword die by the sword. Right. That's another visual, right, of a sword. And what does it mean to live by a sword? It makes you think of things. Who's going to cast the first stone, right? Action. You're thinking of a stone. Why is it being cast? Who's going to do it first? Why would I do it versus that person doing it first? Everything is about action, action, action. And when that's the thing that I've been trying to do is these folks that are concerned about the problems is you get so hooked up into complaining about how bad things are, but you're not doing anything to actually change it. And some people think that if you name who you think is the villain, whatever it is, whether it's communists, it's the leftists, it's the wokesters, it's the globalists, it's the Davos, whatever it is, that thing. If you say that, that's beating it. No, it's not. I mean, Jesus would have been killed the first day he started the ministry if you started calling out every name. That Caesar must be brought down. No, you know what he did? He didn't mention, did he ever say anything against Caesar and his cohort of cabal fools? Did he ever say a word? They gave him plenty of opportunity, and he ninja flipped it, right? He ninja aikido'd out of it, and he did something different. And then who took over Caesar's empire shortly after he did his mission? Jesus. Whose logo went on Caesar's empire? Jesus. Who did the Caesars learn to bow to? Jesus. Did they do it perfectly? No. And then whose empire did he crush to pieces because they refused to do it right? Jesus destroyed the Roman Empire. See, that's not a bug. That's what a lot of people say. Oh, Christianity's garbage because once they turned, Christian, it all kind of went down pretty fast. It's like, well, yeah, because there's an obligation. Christianity is an apocalyptic awakening of something. It's an understanding of things. So now you're playing in a bigger league. And when you screw with that, or you screw in those terms, you're going to F around and find out, and your empire is going to get blown to pieces internally. That's what Jesus does. His yoke is easy, his burden is light, but he also made it very clear that mother will be against father. And isn't that what happened? Isn't that what Roman Empire fell apart? Once they destroyed, they realized, see, here's the thing. Jesus came in and said, see, you don't have to, I'm tired of this dialectic thinking. I've got to be pro-Constantine, anti-Constantine. You can't just say it is what it is and look at it objectively, right? But it's like, think about what happened, man. It's brilliant what Jesus did. Remember the story of Telemachus, the guy that jumped, he's this monk, and he jumps into the Roman gladiatorial games, and he's tired of watching these gladiatorial games where people are laughing as people's intestines are being eaten, and lions are chewing out someone's guts, and everybody's roaring with laughter and glee. He got sick of it. So Telemachus, the story goes, was this Christian who jumped into the gladiatorial games and said, "Stop in the name of God, stop." And the legend is different in different ways, but he was killed. But it wasn't long after that the gladiatorial games stopped. And it wasn't long after the gladiatorial games stopped that the Roman Empire fell apart, right? Because it was, remember this idea in the Old Testament about this, you have been found wanting, you've been weighed and measured. Remember, you see that, what is the passage? I don't remember which book it is, right? The hand on the wall, the writing on the wall. So the Roman Empire had the writing on the wall moment. They were given an opportunity. They were saturated with the gospel. They said, okay, we'll take this logo on. We'll take these aesthetics on, this logos. We're going to do things. And they did good things. But then now there's a heavier responsibility. And if you can't behave yourself once you get the gladiatorial games, then that you've been weighed and found wanting, and the barbarians took what they could. And that's the way of the world, right? Is that you can't, in other words, you can't really, Christianity is this weird thing where you cannot take Christianity and use it as your little talisman to get power and advantage in a non-Christian way before it falls on your face 10 times harder. And that's something that these people who read these little Italian philosophers, they think they understand politics. They know nothing of it. I'm sorry. You read your little Italian philosophers. I don't give a damn what they have to say compared to what Jesus Christ says about politics and power. I'll read that all day long. I'll look at that all day long. I'll look at the actions in my mind of what I imagine those different performance moments that Jesus is doing. When he's eating scrambled eggs and tilapia. When he resurrects, he's on the beach eating. That's performance art, right? There's something, he means something by every one of these things. You know what I mean? It's not just random stuff. It's not, and I don't like everything being turned into a symbol either, because then you get into this Gnostic thing. Oh, that's just a symbol. I don't mean that. I know that sounds kind of similar to what I'm saying. I'm not talking about symbol. I'm talking about, when he's eating breakfast by the beach, what's he mean by that? He means that this is all about the body. The body is resurrected. This is the first fruits. I like this place. I like planet Earth. I'm the king. I like this place. Give me breakfast. I like it here. You're supposed to be excited about that. You're not supposed to read that. I'm scared. Please, Jesus, save me. Okay. You're supposed to be like, okay, the king's here. He wants a meal. He likes it here. He's not a ghost. He's not an avenging ghost like what Pilate thought about his cousin, John the Baptist. He was worried that John the Baptist was going to come back with an avenging spirit. Remember, he kept thinking he was paranoid. He thought Jesus was John the Baptist resurrected. I don't know how he got that mixed up when they were obviously doing different things, different places, had different movements, but somehow he was in such a fevered dream, which is where power and its obsession takes you, that he was projecting and looking, and he was looking for John the Baptist to come and avenge him as a spirit. But Jesus comes back, and what's the first thing he says to his followers who screwed him over? He says, "Shalom, no space between us. Peace. We're good. We're good. Don't worry." He ain't going up to him to punch him. Oh, okay, I'll let you go. No, he's not doing that. He's like, "No, we're good. We're good." Immediately, first message, we're good. Because people who get killed, when they come back in the ancient world, they come for revenge, especially their followers that screwed them over. He does not doing that. So we're not doing that anymore. I don't understand how 2,000 years later, we got people who want to put Christianity with Machiavelli or these other little fascists or what these people, and try to mix something out of that. You can't do it. It will eat you up, and it'll make you look like a fool. That's why I call those guys the Little Caesars. They're as cheap as a $5 hot box at Little Caesars. They got nothing. That's not power, man. I understand it. You're done. When you're beating up on libertarian philosophy, you're punching down, okay? In some way, not in all ways, but you're punching. Oh, look at me. This is not what power is like. It's not a theory. Okay, well, you're good. You got to 8th grade level. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's nice. You just beat up the little nerd. Okay, does that make you a tough guy? Do you know what power looks like now? No, you don't, right? You know what I mean? You're just a schoolyard kid. When we talk about Jesus, we're talking about bigger stuff than that,
There's a
Sorry, it's just so many deep cuts for Matt right now.
What is deep cuts? Please tell me. I don't know what that word means.
It's like
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like dragging up relevant points from the past.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why are you hurting with the truth, David? Why are you hurting Matt with the truth? It might me too, because I did a whole show about this not too long ago, just beating the crap out of libertarians.
There was one when I heard David say that Scripture begins in a garden and ends in a city. That has clanged around in my head for months now.
Well, that's not original. That's from the Scripture, so you can give them credit for that.
Yeah. You're the one who said it, though. You're the one who put it on my radar.
Okay.
I was thinking about this because I've been listening to the whole Council of God podcast with Father Stephen DeYoung, where he's going literally verse by verse through Scripture and expositing. And one of the themes that he points out that is ever present in the first dozen or so chapters of Genesis is the archetype of the city as contrasted with the people of God. So the city is the archetype of essentially the concept of a city in the first dozen chapters or so of Genesis would have had the same connotation as today when we say Sodom or Gomorrah.
Right.
That's how these were equivalent concepts essentially. So then if you were to take someone in the first part of Genesis and you were to show them this vision of history ending in a city, and God's city, the phrase God's city would have struck them akin to us today saying something like God's Sodom. It seems like this. How do these things go together? How does this happen? And this trajectory from garden to city it could be characterized as a development of technology. This is a technological development process.
Mm-hmm.
So what this put me in mind of is that technology is not technology is not a neutral thing, but technology is also not so it's not neutral in the sense that it's not aspiritual, but it's also not inherently good or inherently bad. Technology is a natural outworking of human behavior, which ties into Nick Land and his projection of capital. And anytime you do something competent, you're generating capital. And as you build capital, eventually capital begins building itself until it starts this never-ending process where capital extracts itself from humanity. And he sees this as essentially like the 0 point, or the like, where he doesn't even really know how to define this. But what this struck me as is that building technology is a spiritual discipline. Developing technology is a spiritual discipline.
Yeah.
When man was created, we were created in the image and likeness of God. God said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." And this isn't just poetic, metaphorical language where you're just kind of doing this like this repetition thing. These actually have two distinct connotations. One of them is static. One of them is dynamic. It's kind of like we're going to create man to look like us and act like us. Might be a kind of a watered down way of framing it. There's one concept that is static and one concept that's dynamic. So to be a Christian is to take on this responsibility.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a label that you've applied to yourself.
Yeah.
It's an ethos that you are now embodying. There's an active component to it that it necessarily must be. It must be dynamic and progressive. And because it ties back into humans were created to exercise dominion over the earth and to be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
And the act of humans, when humans begin exercising dominion, when humans begin producing, the act of producing and creating, which is the fundamental human responsibility, is itself development of technology.
It's an act of worship.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's that thing that I'm trying to get across to folks is that there's a kind of psyop. I don't people use that word too much, but it's a kind of autopilot psyop that the reason why the establishment's not afraid to shut down all these channels that are talking about religion and the new trend towards it, which is great, is because they kind of, they self, castrate themselves from the beginning because they have the Gnostic frame of approaching what does it mean to worship, which means to detach oneself from the world as if the world was a failure. It wasn't. I want to emphasize that. Go read the Psalms, every one of them. That's not like, that wasn't, they can't, no one can square that unless you understand what we're talking about here. Like, why is it that the nations are coming to the Mount of Zion? What is the Mount of Zion? What's this little stone that is thrown? And in Daniel, it talks about at the little iron and clay feet, right? The iron and clay feet, which is the final stage of world empire. And then this little stone comes and it knocks down the whole panoply of empires. And then from that little stone, Daniel has this psychedelic vision that it turns into this mountain, which is the Mount Zion. This is the kingdom of heaven on earth. That's happening. Like, that's literally happening. If you had an anthropological framework, and it's not just that, but it really helps you, it's also a media framework, understanding why did McLuhan find his work in media ecology to be a discipline of the Christian faith that he was undergoing? Why? And why did Rene Girard study medieval scholasticism? And why did McLuhan study that? Why did they both create these really nice, mental play boxes for us to get closer to the ground of the truth of Christ, right? There's a reason, because they're not playing within, as McLuhan would say, theology is a nice mental game we play. It's fun. And that doesn't mean I'm not diminishing that, because I'm a nerd for that stuff too, but it's a game at some point when you're not incarnating it with action. And there's a time to, of course, there's a time to there's a strategic time to get away from the crowd, right? Jesus got away from the crowd. He got to, they're getting all up on his space. He would go to the other side of the lake. Remember, it was to get away from these people. Just take a break. So there's a time to rebuild. There's a time to be, it's always being wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, and this kind of paradox, man. But what people do is they got this binary dialectic style thinking. They're always reacting about what they're against. So when I'm sorry, my constitution is I journeyed through the Christian faith, and I don't talk about where I'm at with that, but I have to be I'm the kind of guy that when I was journeying and learning, when I would go to a church faith tradition, I viscerally recoiled whenever I found the after church fellowship discussion revolving over and over and over again about how great their tradition was and how bad the other traditions that they all came out of was in comparison. That viscerally recoils me, because I know in the bottom of my heart that is not the story of the Bible. If you are inspired by the story of the Bible, if you're inspired by the Holy Spirit and the traditions and everything that came out of that with the church, you are not going to find it comfortable to come on to a Sunday fellowship and talk about how great your tradition is and how much better it is than everybody else. It's not the Spirit of Christ. You can viscerally feel it. You can viscerally feel that this is a camaraderie based on a type of proto-scapegoating type scenario, psychological. We are uniting by psychologically and socially expelling those others. So when I see that as the camaraderie, as the fire that we get warmed around, I recoil. I recoil from that. And that's why I don't lay my cards on the table as to what tradition I'm in or whatever. Let that speak for itself, because we have work to do, and time is short in some sense. Time is short. We have a window of opportunity that we have some foundational, like you said, civilizational capital is still here to build with. There's still material to be used. There's still a level of trust in our society that we take for granted in terms of civility, right? Decency. And to be stupid and to fall back into racial tribalism is to lose the whole plot of where Christianity is taking us, And it's not just what's that?
No, sorry, go, but just finish your point, David, because I just want to get into something about McEwen, and I think that gets us back into, I'll onboard you a bit with civilizational capital, because all these things are all, what I find amazing in a lot of these conversations now is that there's, even without having to bring it up, there's this encirclement of ideas. Like, I'm starting to see these things beginning to overlap and build systematically. Where everyone's talking about the same things. It's just they haven't found the right terms, or we're talking about things from using different vocabularies, but we're all talking about the same thing. It's the men touching the elephant. Someone's got the tusk, someone's got the nose, someone's got the leg, but it is the elephant in the room. And I think once we begin to correlate and start using the same language and start getting into the same mimetic mindset or grindset, as I've been saying, then things I think are really going to start kicking off. Because when we think about all desires are external, one of the things I said to Curtis Yarvin when I had him on the show for the Joe Rogan Friend or Fed was that I see that one of the primary responsibilities for people on the dissident right, or whatever group you want to call it, is to substantiate a desire for order. Because once we have a desire for order, and almost any order will do at this point, we have to get people desiring order in the first case, and then start to direct them and moderate them towards what kind of order we think will be best. And of course, from our perspective, it's a Christian based order, but you can say a moral principled order, right? These things are critical, because what people want it, but they just don't know they want it. Or they'll say things like, yes, of course, I want an ordered society, but it's like, well, do you? Because everything else you want is not part of an ordered society. If you want your porn, and you want your this, and you want your that, and you want your instant gratification, and you want your, you want all your toys, but if you have to realize that some of your toys are actually destroying our concept of order, or deteriorous, or they're degenerate. And it's not even like saying you're the bad person and you're doing bad things. It's like these things in general are bad. It's like drinking poison and wondering why you're getting sick. Well, you're drinking poison, and the worst part is you're poisoning everyone else around them. I've used the example. It's like it's like someone defending cancer. If cancer gave you superpowers, and people said, well, no, but I want my superpowers. It's like, yes, but you're dying of cancer. Like, maybe give up the superpowers and you'll stop dying of cancer. It's like, well, you can't have both. But
it's amazing. It's amazing that so many people can function and fight their passions with the sorry state of Christian role models in this society. I'm sorry. The reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I can't find anybody else that's doing it, hardly, except for a few friends. There's a few guys out there, but where are this should be the normal discussion. This should not be a niche thing. It's insane that it's 2024 AD, and this at some point has turned into, it wasn't at all before, a niche thing, that like engineering is one of the great disciplines of Christian worldview. The engineer, what? Medicine. Oh my God. I had a discussion with Father Turbo, and I saw somebody did a reaction video, and they said, well, David wants to cure cancer. I mean, if you cure cancer, that's not really a Christian vocation because you're going to die of something anyways. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Ugh. What about, but some people don't see the whole fit, and it's okay. We got to slow it down and figure out another way at helping people because we want as many folks on board doing the right thing, not reacting. You don't, I don't care how you want to convert, but you shouldn't convert based on reaction and then staying in that reactive fear mode. Right. And then saying, you were mentioning Matt earlier, when you were saying, that the word city is synonymous with like Sodom, Gomorrah, right? There's like evil, right? And that's what I've encountered when I try to push these ideas of like, let's do anti-gravity. Like I'm literally doing that, by the way. So, I mean, I haven't really said that, but, when I push those ideas, people say, well, you sound like Klaus Schwab. And I'm like, no, Klaus Schwab is a cheap ripoff of what Christians should be talking about,
Yes.
And that's why he's got power, by the way. But that's why, because he's not the real deal, that's what's also going to sow his defeat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so they're so caught up in reacting to him that they don't know what winning looks like. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Trump says you don't know what you're going to get sick of winning. Well, not real. I mean, he's talking on a low level of politics, but we don't know what it looks like to win, like Christians win. To like get things done. We knew that at some point. I mean, you look at the level of innovation that was coming out in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. There's some really nice wins, and things were going in the wrong direction. But look, that's why I don't like to freeze frame a moment and say let's go back there. Because this is all growing process, and it's like, I don't want to go back to, 1500s. I don't want to go back to 180. I don't want to go back. Let's just learn like we should as an adult. I look at the human species and history like a macro scale version of your own life. You look back and you're like, man, there's things I did right when I was 10 that I need to remember now that I'm this age, right? Or there's something that, man, I'm so glad that 21-year-old version of me that I've discarded that part of that I used to do, but I need to return to the innocence that I learned when I was 5 or, felt, or that's what we should look at for history as the church. We should be like, okay, this is some wins here, some loss. We could do that differently. We know more now here. That's the whole point. The Bible is going somewhere and history is going somewhere. It's not static. So this popular notion on the right that we should be afraid of technology and we should, well, I guess if the bad guys create something, we'll find a Christian little carve out for us. They'll create the internet and we'll create a Christian message board on Facebook. So, oh my, that mindset, they love it. You couldn't ask for a better way to just like self-own the message of freedom. The gospel is synonymous with the word freedom. It's literally good news. It's this idea of your freedom. What does that mean? You're free to be like God. You're free to become God. You're free to be united with the family of the Holy Spirit, the Father, right, and the Son. You're united into that again. So there's a power there, and there's an excitement there. And here's the thing: we're returning to a healthy respect for spirit, but we're not returning to what we need to, which is also for planet Earth and the body. They go hand in hand. Disrespect the body, you disrespect planet Earth, you disrespect the idea that Jesus is winning in history. All those things come together to create the problem we're in. Well, I don't want to listen to David say something about seed oils. I found some studies from some stupid like hacks called Harvard. Who cares, that tell me seed oils are not as bad as you think. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like you get all these people who they don't want to believe that history is in flux and that Christians are supposed to be a part of that. We're not supposed to run away and just, we'll pray for everybody, hope it works out. Please don't kill us. That's not the mindset. And it's not the other way either, where these Christians go ape and they want to become little dictators and we're going to barge in your house and tell you all to stop watching porn. Okay, you're still in a fevered dream of ideology there. You're still in a stupid fantasy world, man. It's not reality, okay? It doesn't work. It's stupid. It's dumb. Again, it's Little Caesar stuff, and nobody wants that. Nobody cares. It's not the way Jesus would deal with it.
Matt.
So just be like, imitate what Jesus would do. And I know that everybody thinks that's so hard, I guess. You tell people to act like Jesus, they tell you, well, you're not Jesus. Who are you to tell? What do you mean? The whole point, the whole thing he said, like everything he does is all about like, okay, I did something. Now you do it. He's on water and he's like, come on, Peter, now you do it. Like everybody in the modern church is basically like, no, don't you dare suggest that you could step out of the boat and do something like Jesus. He is God. And you are not God. You are a worm. You're a slave to your sins. You're hopelessly depraved. You can't make it. Stay in the boat and just talk about how much you love Jesus and God. Just stay in the damn boat. That's the lie of Satan, but it comes in the voice of the church. Unfortunately, church people in church. I'll say the people in church. Okay, you see what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like, where are we getting this disconnect from? Why is this happening? Why is this? It's because I think we don't have an anthropological perspective of what Jesus was up to. We have a disembodied theological approach, and you miss everything if that's the only That's the only part of the story you're going with. You're going to miss out on the whole point, because you can always spiritualize and psychologize those stories about getting out of the boat and say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just stick to my schmarmy job, taking advantage of people, ripping people off, being a crooked businessman or whatever. And just, I'm scared. I don't want to take problems. I got this big giant mortgage. Why do you have a mortgage? Why are you paying Babylonian compound interest? It's ridiculous. Why? Why are you doing that? Why are you spending your life force doing something which is a pagan practice that Christians should not be engaged in? The Bible talks about don't be in debt. Where does it say, except for 1,000, exceptions like everybody does in America? So if you want to act like Christ, if you want to be a little Jesus, why don't you have zero debt? I want to see no credit score. You don't need to. I understand with business, there's different things going on there. But as for your personal private self, why do you need to have debt? Why do you need a score? Who says that someone's got to give you a score for you to be successful? That's not a score from God. I don't have a credit score. I've had plenty of relationships with great leaders of industry. Successful people. I've dined with kings and queens, and I've dined on pork and beans. Okay.
Funky like a monkey, baby.
There's two thoughts that I had in the midst of that. One of
them.
They
don't have any thoughts. It's only action.
Yeah, that's right.
It's only action.
We have two men made out of hair here. You're graced.
I'm going to actively say the things that are in my head. One, you mentioned the gospel, and this is an interesting thing I learned recently was that the gospel is a military term. It was a term that meant it was when a new prince or king or a new leader would conquer a given region, and the gospel was the proclamation that went ahead and said this region is now under the dominion of this ruler, and implicit within that then was your obligation to that ruler to recognize his legitimacy, recognize his authority, and to act and operate within it.
Yeah.
The other thing was the role specifically for men, the role that was given to man, his first job was to name the animals. And naming the animals is, number one, it's a form of technology.
It's
number
Tina,
two,
by the way.
Say again.
It's Tina. I named one.
Tina.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get to Tina. We'll get to Tina after this. Oh, just sorry, Matt. While I have a pause, not to derail you, but I see you, Nubs. Thank you for the raid. Thank you to Jim Bob for the Nub wave. What are they calling it now? What are the cool kids calling this, Matt?
Nub
Raids.
wave.
Yeah, Nub raid. I can't speak. It's very early in the morning for me. Matt, please go ahead.
So to name the animals was to apply order. It was to apply to create borders, to create distinctions, to establish boundaries, and to for man to impose himself on the world in a way that made the world better, that brought order to the world.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, then developing a relationship with the animals. This is why Eve in the garden is listening to the snake.
Yeah.
She's listening to the serpent because this is her job. Her job is to listen and to function cooperatively with the man. The man is creating. The man is creating reality. And in doing so is establishing order within reality. The woman then is reflecting that back to him. She's his shit tester. She's his debugger, the code that debugs what he's creating. But man's fundamental responsibility is to create. This is what it means to be made in the image and likeness of God.
Right. And it's okay. It's okay that men will be the ones that create anti-gravity. That's okay.
Yes.
Deal with it. It will never happen. Otherwise, it will never happen. It will never, ever happen. You got it? It will never happen. You will never have energy too cheap to meter without men doing it. That's a fact. I don't care. I'm writing a book called Why Women Suck at Voting. I don't care. That's the problem we're in today. Okay? We can't solve these problems, which create engineering problems and questions like that, with lunchroom drama. Politics is lunchroom drama. Going to politics is going to lunchroom drama world to get things done. So I don't like the premise of any of these things that I hear. Like I hear, well, should we legalize, keep porn legal, or should we ban it, right? And I'm like, what a dumb, see, Matt, let's work through what you just said about men should be creating order, right? You can't accept the terms of the discussion from that. Because so this porn culture comes not out of a vacuum. It comes out of a very concerted effort that we have seen from our government to turn this place into a therapeutic state, right? This weird, this whole attack against traditional values and sexual mores and stuff like that was a deliberate thing. I love the article. I always reference it because I don't give you a book on this, but it's just an article, just gives you everything you need to know. Matthew B. Crawford's article in unheard.com called "It Was the Sexual Revolution a Government Psyop?" You just read that little article, and it shows you, it's got all the receipts to show you that this world that we're in that's so sexually debauched was a deliberate policy and agenda of the United States government starting after World War II. It was to denazify denazify the American people as a gift for their sacrifices in their participation in World War II. Oh, wait, these guys are coming back. They thought, they were worried. These guys are coming back and they get burned out too fast from bombing and killing children over in Europe. This is a problem. They asked psychologists, what do we do about it? Well, we got to reprogram their mind. They've got the issue isn't just the going through with the order thing. It has something to do with their sexual repression, and all that stuff. So this rise of psychology, which is a totally garbage usurpation of what the Bible talks about and what anthropology gives us. Girard says psychology is just a continual perpetuation, the psychological domain, the field of the scapegoat mechanism. And you can see it all around you. It just shifts the blame onto somebody else, so that power in the system contains its same little dysfunctional way. So here's my point about the thing you were talking about. Like I've said, like, what does it mean to you're talking about order. I've proposed one policy thing that all conservatives and Christians and everybody should be working on right now. One thing, that's it. Privatize marriage at the state level, step by step, just that. Just privatize it. Ron Paul told you to do that in 2007. Nobody listened because they didn't understand what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Privatize marriage. Bring the terms of the contract outside of the chaotic domain of lunchroom drama politics, right? And let the church institutions have a kind of free market contest of who's got the best terms available for young people to enter into. So that you go to one church might say, we're not letting you have an exit like that. You've got to have a real strong case, X, Y, Z. These are our standards for dissolving this union, right? And you don't get to have a monetary incentive, alimony, this or this thing or that thing. All this the family court system, this is not something that has to be the standard for how marriage covenantal contracts are determined. If conservative Christians and people who cared about order wanted to do one political thing that would be like a wedge to take the whole chaotic system apart and start rebuilding foundationally, it would be that. Just privatize marriage the way it used to be. Why does government have to have a monopoly on the terms of the contract and its entering and its terms of dissolving? Why is that a thing that we ceded to the state? That's insane.
Just a shout out. We are getting showered in gifts. Let me just do a shout out here. Colmark,
Wiseman.
Logan Daly, King Pilled, and BT Wixt or Betwixt. Thank you, gentlemen, for sending out those podcast memberships. People claim your memberships. I will be doing a Spirit of Vengeful Sun reading and an AMA tomorrow. That'll be Saturday at around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll follow me on Twitter and I'll put the links and the awareness there. Okay, David. Let's get to what we originally thought I was going to talk to you about, and then of course we talked about everything else. Here is you and your CNN correspondent, who has now left CNN, is trying to work with you. I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Tina
joining us today. CNN correspondent, neoconservative, Tina. How you doing, Tina?
Hi, I'm so glad to be here to set the record straight.
Did you see the interview with Tucker Carlson? Did you enjoy that?
Absolutely not. We are not to have free speech in the West.
But what do you mean? We're America.
This is our democracy. That's hate speech to say people can talk.
Why?
Because government says so. Our democracy is never wrong. Our democracy always has wars for good intention.
It only goes to war for good intentions?
Absolutely.
What's your basis for that?
Because I watch TV. If we let Tucker Carlson come back to United States without being arrested.
Oh, come on, Tina. What law can you appeal to say that we should arrest Tucker Carlson? You can't say that's okay.
Our democracy.
Okay, Tina, I can't take this. Please get on.
Okay.
I
love Tina.
Tina lost her job from CNN once she came on my show, and she's looking to come back on. I'm trying to negotiate terms that are fair for everyone involved, and she is proposing, what she's offering is she wants to demonstrate, and she's very proud of this. She thinks it's absolutely brilliant the way the media does, but she's going to demonstrate the way in which the elites use media to take power, to have power, and to exercise it over us. So she's going to demonstrate it. She's very excited to demonstrate it. She thinks it's utterly amazing the way they work their numbers on us, and she's excited to showcase it. And I'm just trying to make sure that we can have a civil discussion next time she comes on and she doesn't go ape crazy again. So we'll see what that looks like in the near future. But I'm excited to see what she says. She says, I'm going to show people once and for all the magic trick, so to speak, of the media's work, how it works its number on us. So I'm looking forward to see what she's going to bring.
We have Kunk out here giving €5 super chat. Tina Funds. Appreciate the Tina Funds. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're coming up on the hour.
Bananas. We have rotten bananas that I've been throwing her way.
Somehow David managed to find a woman who's hairier than either he or I is.
Yeah, I'll work with whoever will come on. You know how hard it is to get a liberal to come on my show. You know, I mean that's about the best we could get.
Well, you finally found one, and she got scapegoated.
Yeah.
Have you tried upping your game to getting some coconuts? I think the coconut payment, is almost better than bananas. You know.
Yeah, pure coconut oil. That's
exactly,
Ray Pete stuff, right? Right, see? Matt? Ray Pete.
Right.
Ray
this
Pete.
Is how we bring it all back.
Bring it all together. Can you imagine if we had a podcast with Renee Girard and Ray Pete and like a few others like that?
Oh.
Can you imagine that? Good gravy.
I think about these things all the time. It's just like, you know, It's unfortunate. It's almost unfortunate starting when we did, because I mean, I would have just loved to get Renee Girard now. Knowing what I know now, getting him on for a talk would have been fantastic. But luckily, we're left with the great man's work, and the other people like Luke Burgess and you, of course, David, continue the work, and I do what I can when I can do it. Let's just touch on democracy a little bit, and then getting in, and then we'll wrap this up. Again, thank you, David. Thank you, Matt, for coming on. I always appreciate anyone giving me their time and attention. Is very humbling. With democracy, and especially our democracy incorporated, that term, our democracy, is quite often used by by certain people. Especially when it's under attack. Democracy seems to be always under attack, and there seems to be always this very fragile state, about to collapse at any minute. But the only thing that can save it is, of course, voting in, Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden or et cetera, et cetera. Joe Biden just, of course, had a mumbling State of the Union yesterday. I appreciate how they've I think dialed in the speed on that man. You can tell the difference when he's got the good drip. This all to say, these are the indicators I keep pointing to that saying that support the statement that we don't live in a civilization anymore. This democracy that we're being told to, this ritual almost that we're being told to always enact is only being enforced by fear now.
Mhm.
Like this is the most critical election of all time. Like if you don't vote for the right people in this, we're going to hell. You're going to be in slave camps and women and children, and think of the funding in Ukraine and all the whole world rests upon this one election. And I think finally people are getting to the point where we're realizing this is bullshit. And it's stunning to see to me the general awareness that people may not speak about it in the same language we would, or with the same emphasis we would, but they're starting to even get this idea that there's something wrong. There's something stinking in the state of in Denmark, and that's where we're at. So, David, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Matt, we'll kick it to you first, and then we'll let David carry us out.
Well, here, this ties both the topic of Rene Girard and your thing together. What motivates Pilate, this is from Rene Girard, what motivates Pilate as he hands Jesus over is the fear of a riot. Did you just see the Capitol building yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
The little pageantry with the little fence? He demonstrates political skill, as they say. This is true, no doubt, but why does political skill almost always consist of giving in to violent contagion? So, when you read the gospel accounts of the Passion, it's a total indictment and revelation of what politics is all about. And it's like what you're talking about, Matt, so there's this weird thing happening is that, and I said this recently in a show where, Cain gets his offering is rejected. And a lot of people traditionally believe it was like grapes and wheat, like a traditional harvest crop, offering would be in that time, in that period, would be like maybe a grain and wheat offering, or maybe grapes, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe some grapes and wheat. And it's rejected because it's done in a spirit of violent resentment, obviously, as he reveals his true colors once Abel's offering is favored. Abel's gift had more skin in the game. He killed an animal, and it's a lot more skin in the game than killing your prized possession little lamb than it is maybe getting some wheat and some grapes. But more importantly, Abel gave with a heart of self-giving rather than instead of a sacrificial other spirit of, let me do this to one up the other, right? And what I'm saying is even though Cain founds the first city after that, and the city is indicted through much of the scripture, it is eventually redeemed, as we talked about with Revelation. And it's Jesus, in my opinion, when you look at the Eucharist, here you have grape and wheat, right? We have the return of those elements now reconfigured, right? As this new entry point into the kingdom of heaven. So he redeems Cain. He redeems not only Abel, the original primordial victim of the foundation of every city and every political structure and society, but he also redeems the original killer. He redeems Remus, who's killed by Romulus, and he also redeems Romulus, who is the new king of this new world order, right? At that time. You see what I mean, Matt?
And it's not just the grapes and the wheat, but it's bread and wine. So now it's the grapes and the grapes and the wheat is the raw materials.
Right.
The bread and wine is the raw materials that have been mixed with the labor of a human being. A human being has to prepare that.
Positive mimetic transference of knowledge and ritual and things you have to do to make these things better. So yes, it's always, Jesus is not otherwise. He's bringing people back together. He's redeeming the king and the and the one that the king killed to establish his first sacrificial, blessing or whatever. And so our democracy is just an attempt to put as front load as much Christ haunted vibes into what is a sick, nightmarish, fascist type state. And I mean fascist in the sense of I'm using the definition of corporatism as fascism. It's just not communism. It's these giant business oligarchs, and they give communist scraps to the poor, and then they shore up their power in the elite enclaves. And so it's not communism. You can't say that. I call it corporate communism, whatever, corporatism. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're doing whatever they can to front load these vibes, right? Women vote with the vibe. So they vote for things like they want to be with the group that has more power, right? It is not socially high status for us to do this podcast right now at this moment. It's a little bit costly, okay? It's not the high status thing to do. Women typically want to go with the things that are going to get them access to the higher status places in society. But they also are more emotionally in tune with the vibe of the room. That's why women say the word, read the room, Bill. And when you walk by the party that's going wrong at the Chuck E. Cheese, hey, read the room, Bill. We're not opening presents right now. They want to play some more. Like they read the room. They felt the vibe. They wanted to play. And Bill's just haplessly, okay.
You're listening to the animals.
Pick up next.
All married men have the same stories, by the way. It's just eventually it's all like toddler birthday parties and like pool things. You're like,
we
live in a civilization. We live in a society. And I'm a civilized social person. I really am.
So women feel the vibe. Well, the vibe of the room of the Western civilization that we're in America is very Christ haunted. There are Christ-like ghosts everywhere we look. We go into a room and the women are like, I feel the vibe. You ever watch those shows where they do the haunted mansion thing? And it's always the girls like, I feel something. They're usually the ones that feel something before the guy with the little stupid little detector thing. The point is they're in tune with the emotional vibe of the room. If everybody's vibing that there's something that's looking at them, the girls will be the ones that vibe it first, and they'll be the ones that like respond intuitively to it. They're more mimetically connected, the structure of their way of looking at things to that those little undernotes. Like women are like, you drink wine and some people drink it and they're just like, it tastes like grapes. That's rotten. And then the other people are like, no, I taste a little bit of this, and it tastes a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of whiskey, a little bit of, it tastes like a pig snout that's been aged for 50. So they take, women are like that about emotions and environments and people, and right, they vibe with all that. That's why alpha males are they're often attributed with being like mama's boys or something, very in tune with the woman's wisdom of the emotional room. And that's why, like Trump, he's kind of a ham. He's kind of a drag queen type guy, right? He's because he gets the vibe of people and he plays with that, right? And that's why there's only a few alpha males, because most men are not. They're more things oriented, like building, engineering stuff, right? And it takes that the leaders are people who can navigate the world of that emotional vibing thing and the orientation towards, let's not get into the drama though with that. Let's not go down there. Let's focus how to use the art of the reading the room thing that women are good at, and then direct that into like a coordination of skill sets to achieve great things that are an extension of man, right? Technologies and healings and so forth. So our democracy is just a cheap little brand that is desperately front loaded with Christ haunted vibes that are very victim oriented. Like he said, I will tell you, I saw the clip. I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw the clip. But he said, I tell you, Supreme Court, that, women are very good at voting and getting their heard and their pop, something like that. Right. And they're like, yeah, they're screaming, right. So they know how to like kind of constantly coax that victim narrative, the victim thing. And you can't react to it like the conservatives do and say, you're not a victim. That's not what you do. Okay. I'm sorry. If someone is severely handicapped and they're attacking you, you don't say, hey, you're handicapped. Sit down. You don't do that. You don't do that. If you're a normal human being with decency and dignity, you
Or
can't
worse,
put them down. You
or
have
worse,
to
try to
beat
tell
them at the whole game, you know?
yeah, or try to tell the handicapped person they're not, and it's like, no, I am. Like, I'm in the wheel. This isn't a lie. I'm really, you know, I have no legs. Like,
Yeah.
you can dance? No, I can't. Like, I can't do that.
But-
yeah,
but
it's
that's
it's
But that's
acknowledging
the
the
same
victim.
thing with conservatives reacting to victimology, right? Like, look at this. This is victimology. It's like, yeah, thank you for pointing out that you're here now. You woke up to reality. Yes, they use victims. Now, why is that? They can't answer the why. They just know the what. That's why they're not leaders.
Well, I think
They
they're
can tell
scared
you
of the why.
what all day.
They're
What?
scared of the why. That
Yeah.
one of the things that Matt and I keep saying with the civilizational capital and all these concepts is like, and then what? It's always the answer to the question, and then what?
Yeah.
Once you start this progress, it's like, all right, how do you solve for the next thing?
Right.
And if your starting position is like, oh, you can't do this, or they're going to knock it down. You can't do any of this because the bad evil people are going to do bad evil things. I'm like, yeah, yes, that's what bad evil people do. I'm
Yeah.
aware. And here's a great thing. It's like, I'm trying to think of the meme, you know, where it's like the black pill guy turning to Jesus, like, why do you always send me your hardest challenges? And Jesus is like, your enemies right now are literally proclaiming themselves as demons. They have purple hair, and they're gay and retarded. Like, this is the easiest thing in the world. Like, come on, like,
Yeah.
they're proclaiming themselves. It's not like you have to go like find them. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
where is the
Is there-
serpent? It's like the serpent's in the room hissing in your face,
Yeah.
and you're like, how do I deal with this? Here's the great thing: the
Yeah.
serpent's retarded. You just
Yeah.
poke it in the eye, and it goes away.
Yeah. I like
There's
the
a-
meme where it says, why are you giving me all these hard trials, Lord? And he's like, it's just your thyroid. You gotta fix it. You know?
There's a really deep truth in here that I was contemplating this the other day, that the man who is willing to die is far more dangerous than the man who is willing to kill.
Mhm.
To kill is not, there's nothing special about someone who's willing to kill, because it doesn't ultimately cost you everything, but dying costs you everything. So the man who is willing to die can determine his own outcome.
Yeah.
And this is everyone's focused on power, but nobody's focused on responsibility. The Spider-Man thing is very true. With great power comes great responsibility. And I would say the other way around is true as well. With great responsibility comes great power. Power is responsibility that has been given to someone.
Yeah.
And when people look at this, they're like, oh, there's this other group of people, I can't work with those people, or there's with this whole idea with our democracy, that our democracy has to do something. Even the people who are saying we need to ban porn, well, they're saying someone else needs to ban porn.
Yeah.
They're not saying I need to
Yeah.
go ban porn. They're
Yeah.
saying someone else needs to do it.
Exactly.
But
It's a type of scapegoating. It's a
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Because you're not
Christian
gonna be,
perspective is I am going to go build something where
Yeah.
porn is not allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Build a private city, or whatever. I mean, build a private community, whatever. Build tech. It's not just that. It's build the technologies that make these edifices that these wicked things are so propped up on fall apart. Not just the structure of the institution, but also the attitude and the vibe of the room. The vibe of the room of this country is so stupid because it's not Christian in the true sense of it, but it's haunted by it. All we have to do is bring the real thing up, which is an attitudinal shift. It's a state of being, of joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Where's the joy? You guys are afraid. They're afraid they can't do anything. I say cure cancer. They say they're going to die from something anyways. Let's just pray and run. Okay. Then that's not the joy of the Lord. Where's the joy of the Lord? The joy of the Lord delights in the thought that like I've said this before, this is a good gate. This is a good litmus test to see if you get where we're going here, where I think the Bible's going. Like, do you think when Jesus, heals people of blindness, is he just healing their blindness as a metaphor for like their spiritual rottenness? Or does he actually delight in the person being able to see? Does he just delight in that too, just in and of itself, not just the spiritual corruption that's also tied into these things? And if your answer is the former and not the latter, you're just not there with Christianity. And I think God's very gracious. And so I'm not condemning you anywhere. I'm just saying that's not the vibe of Christianity. The vibe of Christianity is joyful. It's good news. It's the proclamation that the new king has arrived. And don't worry, he's not like these idiots in the alt-right and these little wannabe little Caesars, because he's the guy that shows up in a food trough. That's what he thinks of power, okay? He's going to invert it. That's why Curtis Yarvin won't come back on my show, because I walked him in our first conversation very kindly and politely, and I listened to what he had to say, but I showed him how his concept of power just isn't going to work as long as Christ is king. It's just going to fall apart. He came on again, and he was shilling against ivermectin or whatever, and he said it was folk medicine. Again, that's just not the way the world is going to continue to go. The 21st century is possessed and owned by Christ, and we can do it the easy way or the hard way. So let's do it the easier way. That's not perfectly easy, but let's do it the easier way. Let's not run. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. That's what Christ said. We're on his yoke is on us. You can't get out of it, Yarvin. You can't speed dial back to FDR. You can't go around it. You have to go through it, right? That's why I don't like people always criticizing. It's really faddish. Oh, I hate liberalism. All these little podcasts, And I don't want to make fun of them because they like me. I can try to work with whoever. So somebody, they always talk about liberalism. I don't like liberalism. Liberalism. We have to get past liberalism. I think they're like intelligent. Ooh, liberalism. It's liberalism. That's like more intelligent. That's like signaling that you're not like I'm higher IQ than a Hannity listener. I say the word liberalism, but I don't mean liberals. I don't.
Now it's deep cuts on me, Matt. So.
I look at that stuff and I laugh at it because it's like, dude, the only way through liberalism is not to back up and try to like go back the other way. You're going to have to go through it. You're going to go better than liberalism. You're not going to react to everything. No, we're going to make it better. We want free speech. I mean, I don't care what these little, isn't it funny? I mean, all these little guys, I'm serious. All these guys that have issues with like, they want to ban, like I've seen these little new right kids come out, these little Christian trad little wannabe Caesars, and they say, we got to ban pornography and we're going to ban blasphemy by law. When we get in power, we're going to cut your head off if you try to say something. I'm like, and they all turn out to be gay. Did you notice that? They all turn out to do something wrong with them. They have some anger that they want to push out through these like sublimated forms. And I'm going to cut your little head off when we get our little papal supremacy instituted into this country. You just wait. And we're all going to have nice suits and we're going to look really nice and orderly. I don't want that conservatism. That shit can go to hell. Okay? I don't want nothing to do with that stuff. Let's talk about real stuff. Kids have cancer. We're sick of it. We're fucking sick of it. We don't want kids to have cancer anymore. It's time to cure it. Let's go. I don't want to hear about your stupid uniforms anymore. I don't want to hear your uniforms and your little freaking blasphemy laws. It's a blasphemy that we let cancer happen to little kids. So kill it in the name of Jesus Christ. You see what I mean? Kill diabetes. Kill that stuff. Destroy it. That's what Christians do. Don't talk about regiments and little uniforms. Damn those little uniforms. These little people that want the little soldiers all lined up. Man, it's some gay stuff, man. I'm tired of that stuff. How you guys doing?
Sanji says, who made him mad? Well, kind of the world, man. Okay. One second here. Both and the $2 super chat. 100% David, amen. Yes, David, amen. All right. Matt, follow up.
Why are you asking me to follow up something like that?
Because I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I guess this is my responsibility, right? I gotta bear the responsibility. I gotta pick up my cross.
Yes, Mr. Responsible. Go ahead.
Oh man, yeah, that like self-sacrifice is powerful. That's the way out through liberalism, like Dave's talking about here, is liberalism is the ultimate deification of the self. It's ultimate self-worship. It's the conception of an idealized individual that we all proclaim ourselves to be the embodiment of, and we worship that individual. The way out through this is not the indulgence of your pride. It's not the indulgence of your anger. It's not the indulgence of your lust for power. It's the willingness to lay down your own life. Whether that means lay down your life can mean like go die. It can also mean sacrifice your desires for your life, the things that your passions draw you toward, sacrifice those things for the larger cause. There are problems that need to be solved, and these problems don't go away. This world is not a a lost evil thing.
Mhm.
World has been redeemed. This world is being redeemed. And our
Mhm.
role in the process of is to participate in the redemption of this world.
Right.
Building is our obligation. And to build something, you have to sacrifice yourself. If I choose to build a house, I'm choosing not to do something else. If I choose to make children, you were talking about the conceptualizing like human society at the macro scale as kind of like a macro version of the micro version
Yeah.
of the human lifespan. And you find out when you have children, you begin reliving your own childhood. This
Right.
is where I've said before that adulthood is not the point where you've attained the furthest level. The next level is parenthood. Because the difference between an adult and a parent is the parent has had the experience of bringing a life into the world and then watching that life develop and
Right.
seeing your own self in them. And then realizing that you're going to die someday and they're going to live on. And you
Yeah.
care about what that world is going to look like.
Yeah.
You want that to be a good world. You
Yeah.
want your child to have safety and to have peace and to have prosperity. You want to give them the tools to continue to redeem the world through their lives. So this isn't something where you sit and you say, well, there's all these problems and our leadership all sucks and nobody's coming out and solving these problems. That's a feminine, that's a
Yeah.
corrupt feminine
Yeah.
perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Someone go
It's not-
fix that.
Yeah. It's not a feminine. It's a good that you said it's corrupted. It's
Yes.
not what feminine is beautifully done well. But, you know, I'm just trying to say that, you know, you're totally right. We have to have people who are excited about getting in there and making a mess of themselves, being okay. Look, I just yelled. Someone can clip that and say that. I don't care.
Oh, I'll be
It's
clipping that. I'll be
But
clipping
the,
that.
but the point is that we have to make a point somehow. We have to perform the
Mhm.
point.
Yes.
If you're not, any man who goes through the suffering of a child with cancer will rage more than I just did. That was a little,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So let's be
Mhm.
real about that, and let's remind ourselves that it's okay to not be controlled by the emotions, but to demonstrate the different levels of them, so that we remind ourselves what time it is. This is not a podcast right now. This is real life. This is an image. Everybody watching this right now, you're staring at a black screen. I'm not here with you.
But
I'm
you
here
are.
with you in the spiritual sense of the thing, but you're staring at a black screen or whatever. If you're on your phone or whatever you're watching, I'm not with you in that way. This is not just entertainment. You see what I mean? There's so many different layers to this stuff, and people are so lulled into this kind of dispassionate, I'm just too above it all. And that's why they tried to meme Alex Jones, right? Because Alex Jones is one of the few guys besides me who shows passion in that level. Right. And he's been doing it for decades. And so he's got this thing built in, but they've memeified that because it's like ironic that a man would show emotions like that. Oh, we can only receive that as comedy. Do you see what I mean? Because it's like, we're so ironic. We're so past reality because they don't believe anything is left to be done. We're still stuck in that, that what was that Fukuyama thing, the end of history. We're still stuck in that framework because every time you say, well, the seed oils are causing, no, they've already determined that's not true. It's perfectly fine. Everything's been figured out. We're just going to eat seed oils and just try to diminish our footprint on the earth. And you're like, okay, well, can we do energy too cheap to meter? How about like low temperature nuclear energy? Oh no, the experts say that's not real. That's not going to ever happen. We're only going to just keep funneling billions of dollars into frauds that are going to just never do nuclear fusion, the hot way, the thermonuclear hot way.
Just to build on that, David, there's always the classic line, you can't handle the truth. And I think most people, it's not that they can't handle the truth. They actually can't handle their own lies. So because they're being crushed and they're aware of that, devious nature of the lie, they turn on truth because it's much more easier to destroy truth and remove it from them, right? And then that lie, they can turn into the lie and just be the lie. Yeah. And I think because people identify with it so much and I've seen this in my own personal life many, many times, it's like you deliver some truth and there are repercussions. People will turn on you. They will scapegoat the crap out of you because they just can't deal with it. Yeah. They don't want it anywhere near them.
Yeah. I mean, do you understand? Like, okay, so you are Matt. I want to play with these tensions here. You are right to say that part of the thing about being an adult as a human Christian person is that You have to tame the passions and not let them control you. But there's this paradox to this, because if you're so running away from the passions that you're no earthly good, then you're not Christian. So, because here's the thing, right? So getting into showbiz, I'm entering into a very dangerous combat athletic sports. I'm aware of how many people die early and very viciously and very alone in that industry. That's a tough world. And we're not even talking about Hollywood. We're just talking about that particular industry has its own difficulties. Being a public minister, how many of those ministers like Jimmy Swaggart fall off the wagon? Right? When you're at the level of responsibility of being an influencer and you're still trying to hold the line to some degree for what you believe to be the truth of Christ, there is tremendous pressures on so many levels, and that most men don't want that. So they'd rather just be maybe a modestly successful business person in a little nook, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But the point is, when everybody thinks that's all we can ever do, because anybody who pursues greatness is always going to be revealed to be a fraud, then nobody's going to do anything the way Jesus wants us to. He doesn't want us to listen to that lie. You know what I mean? He's like, because you'll hear that in the voice. Don't do that. You could be Jimmy Swaggart one day. Don't do this. You could be that lonely, addicted person or something. You know what I mean? You could be that shambled mess of a person. You can't handle the pressure, so don't do anything great. You can't handle the assassination attempt. You can't handle the slander. I mean, if I am able to create anti-gravity technology, or anybody, do you know what they're going to say about me? They're going to say everything you can imagine. I can't even imagine what they'll probably come up with. They're not going to allow that thing to come online without any resistance.
If they can't find something in your past, they'll invent it.
Yeah. I mean, and so, people, you're right. People, I like the way you said that, Jason, that humans are afraid of their own lies. They don't want to live. People can't tell the truth about themselves, let alone anything else. They can't tell the truth about who they are. That's the whole mimetic lie. Yeah. I am who I am, and this is who I am, and these are my passions, and I'm strong, and this is what I want, and I truly want. We don't know the truth of ourselves. And that's why people, it's very trendy to, try to make fun of professional wrestling, because professional wrestling holds a mirror up to the truth of who we are. And people don't like mirrors. And they're always going to find a way to marginalize a mirror, always going to try to find a way to disparage it, because they don't want to look at who they are, and they don't want to see what it reads about them. I don't like violence, but yet what do? They go for this Biden, our democracy, murdering people left and right. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, well, as long as the violence is over there in a foreign country, it's fine. We can support it over there as long as as long as it's not in our streets, or if it is in our streets, as long as being
they would like it in the rural
people.
Yeah, rural people, the poor people they can punch down on and make fun of because, whatever. That's typical scapegoating. But our democracy is that whole brand is dying rapidly, right? So it's dying. But if we could figure out ways, and I want to know what your civilizational capital concept is, if we can find ways to accelerate this awareness of the anthropological grounded Christian incarnational action approach, we have to do this faster. Because we have this window, and every minute that we tarry, we're wasting our moments that we can use to build, to think, to strategize, to talk, and not do things in a haphazard way, but do things very, very thoughtfully.
Well, okay, David, Matt, do we have you guys for a little bit longer? Okay,
yep, sure.
Matt, how about I got to just go to the facilities? How about you onboard Dave a little bit with Civilizational Capital? I'll come back and do my spiel as well. I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. So this was born out of Nick Land's observation about he says for Jason, this is when the idea began percolating for him, that anytime a human being does something competently, there's a development of capital. It's these two things go together directly. So competency equals capital. And we began thinking about the different domains of capital that there are. There's social capital, economic capital, and political capital were the categories that we've been operating with. And I suppose the simplest way, if you could put it into a sentence, our thesis is that building civilization, as we're defining it, is like civilization is a mouth sound that we're using to describe a mind picture. And that mind picture that we're describing is the sacred responsibility of Christians is to build civilizations.
Right.
And paired with this then is the observation we don't live in a civilization right now. We're in the remnants of a civilization, but effectively we're in like a jungle full of warring tribes that are all primal.
Right.
They have this extremely high time preference. They don't build. They're not building for the long term. They're
Right.
building for the immediate now, the immediate gratification of the now.
Right.
So we have a responsibility to build civilizations, which is when you're lengthening out your time horizon and you're
Right.
beginning to build intentionally, whether or not you're actually going to see the consequences of this, whether or not you actually get to experience the benefits of it. This is your responsibility, is to build. We build because we build.
Yeah.
He was influenced initially by a video he saw of a black woman in the Congo. She's like some villager.
This is Nick Land that was influenced by this?
Jason.
Oh, okay.
This woman in the Congo, she's got her laundry on her head, and she's walking across this like, it was like a couple of sticks of bamboo that have been laid across like a seasonal stream, and they're all like stretchy and flopping around and everything, and she slips and falls off, and the thing dumps off her head and goes flowing down the river, and she has to wade out. And everybody was quote tweeting this and passing around and saying, "Oh, the West has failed the Congo." And Jason looked at it, he's like, "No, this woman exists within what we were now calling the primal frame. They don't build bridges, because maybe it's something like this stream only exists here for 2 or 3 months out of the year. So while it's here, we're going to lay some sticks across it, and then as soon as the stream dries up, we're just going to pick those sticks up and go use them for something else." But then you have like Roman bridges that are 2,000 plus years old that are. And really, it's kind of irrational to build a bridge like that. It's kind of irrational to take so much time and care to put into erecting this thing that's just going to stay here forever, to do it beautifully. This is not a rational activity. It's more rational to be like, hey, we'll have a bridge when we need it, and then not have a bridge when we don't need it. But so primal people are hyper rational, but civilizational people build things that are going to last, because that's what civilizational people do. When you occupy the civilized frame, you build things because that's what you do, because you build things, and you're building things that are going to last. You're building things that are going to be sustained. And I think this goes hand in hand with the act of having children, to procreate, be fruitful and multiply. To procreate in accordance with that command is to believe that there is a future, and that future needs to be better than the present. Right. And that your children are going to live in that future, and you have a self-sacrificing obligation to take from today to invest in tomorrow for the sake of your children.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. They have it's like low time preference versus high time preference. They talk about that, but and it's. I don't want it to get into a division between like these are civilizationals and these are uncivilized. Christianity kind of, it kind of guides us against that too.
And I think that's a trajectory. I think that's a trajectory, because if a crisis was to happen right now, like we say, you took a bunch of people who live with a civilized mindset, and you pick them up and you plop them down in a completely foreign land that's hostile and dangerous to them, immediately they're going to go back to these primal instincts. Because now you have to be concerned, like, is the tiger in the bushes, is that Russell a tiger in the bushes coming after me? I got this cut on my leg. I need to focus on making sure I don't get an infection. When you don't have this civilized technological buildup around you that allows you to have that long time horizon, your time horizon shortens right back up again, and we all plunge right back into this primal mindset.
If you don't mind me jumping in for a sec, the way I envision it is, it's not a dialectic, it's a differentiation. To do a little Girardian mimetic zone with it, is that in a dialectic we would say that it's either or these are opposing forces, or you're looking at these things as like two sides of, let's say, a same coin. I'm saying there's two separate frames, and these two frames you can inhabit them at any time. Anyone can be this. It's not just grass. Primal frame people are not just grass skirt people. The examples often are the grass skirt people. But it doesn't have to be the grass skirt people. It can be the blue hair person, people who moved their time preference to zero, who now every existential threat, every threat is now existential. It's immediate, because I think about it as sort of like in a video game. when you're in the primal frame, your health bar is this big. 2 hits, you're done. Whereas a civilization, the whole point of, I think, one of the whole major purposes of a civilization is to extend that health bar, so that now when you have an external threat coming in, you have I'll onboard you with this, David, and we'll see what you do with it. You have these protective layers that of tradition, of policy, of all these things, that as the threat comes in, you can take that time and go, okay, what is this? Right? We have good gates. We have all these things. We don't have to freak out, but we do have to look at it and identify it as an issue, and then deal with it appropriately. I think of it in the image of, an acorn becomes a tree. Well, what if instead of this, we're saying the acorn, the tribe in this case, is enveloped by the tree. So the acorn still remains, the tribe still remains, the clan, or whatever term you want to use for it.
Yeah.
And the tree, that civilizational tree, grows up around it to kind of protect and produce it. So the tribe is constantly feeding into the tree, and the tree is constantly growing, and the tree goes on forever until eventually gets too big and maybe falls down, and we have to restart the whole process again. Where Matt and I sort of envision this is that we're saying let's say there's 3 main domains in a civilization. All civilizations are essentially the same. If you zoom out far enough, when you zoom in close enough, the differences become more radical. So the Italian and the French, let's say, they both inhabit a very similar geographical area. They both have a lot of the same cultural touchstones, but as you zoom in, of course, the differences become magnified. But if you zoom out, okay, so all civilizations are functionally the same. Okay, well, what is a function? So let's say we take 3 domains, and we're already using these terms. I just think they're hollow. They haven't been given a purpose. So we have, let's say, the social domain, so social capital, economic capital, and political capital. And those are held in domains, and there's all the subdomains you can think of that go along with it. These things are held together in the civilization by a regio. And regio, I mean both region, leadership, a king, or whatever you want to, whatever your leader is, and a religion. You have to have these 3 things. You can sometimes do without one of them. The Spanish being conquered by the Moors, they still lived in Spain. They still had their religion, but they were lacking the leadership. They were lacking a place to really call themselves home. But you need this regio to hold those domains together, because without it, those domains begin to cannibalize each other. They start to attack each other. They don't know how to. They don't have something to invest in, so they become self-important. And when you get into that position, which is where I think we're at right now, and there's tons of, I can give you a list of examples as long as the day, then you no longer live in a civilization. These things will tear everything apart, because the primacy of each domain and how people look at it, you have all these different ideologies. No, it's economics. No, it's socialism. It's social policy. No, it's political policy. No, it has to be this. It has to be that. It has to be all of those things at all times, in every single way. And I'm sorry, one last point, and I'll throw it to you, David, is that a proper civilization mirrors its citizens, and the citizens mirror the civilization. So that if you live in a proper civilization, and I say, hey, David, who are you? And you say, well, I'm an American. I'm like, oh, okay. And now I know a lot about you. And I should be, if it's running well, I should be impressed by it. I should take a step back almost. Like, oh, okay, I'm dealing with an American now. Like, that means something.
If it's running badly, then it has different stereotypes, right? Yeah.
Well, exactly. So then when you say that, you're like, oh, and maybe I take a step forward now.
Yeah.
Because, oh, you're an American.
Do you need help? Do you need help?
Yeah, do you need help? Or do I need to be, do I need to get my fists up? Like, where's this going? Right. So anyways, David, that's a lot, I know, to download.
I mean, my first thought, Matt, was when I thought about the Roman bridge you were talking about, how beautiful it was. I'm like, maybe Jesus might have been transported over that bridge on the way to his execution, though. So what is it about Christianity that we need to take into consideration here? So, and I know you're not doing that, but we have to be careful, folks who are tired of, the left or whatever, and liberalism. When you get into that world, it's like, well, let me look at how beautiful this Roman this bridge is, but look underneath the bridge. Oftentimes there's a dead body that's buried underneath it. Like in Japan, they did that up even to the 1800s. I think they would still sacrifice a 15-year-old girl or something to the building of a new bridge over a raging river and so forth. I mean, where's the mindset? I mean, it's the same mindset that Herod was worried about when John the Baptist, who was worried he was going to come back from the grave and get him. And so that mindset, I think, has to be, we can't react and say, let me build a beautiful cathedral. We have to, and I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying, so how do you square because Christianity is not, Christianity, the ideological Christianity is like, okay, basically it's this. There's a new king in town. Who is it? It's Jesus. Okay. What's he do? He's God. Okay. And what do I got to do? You do this ritual, join this church, do this, this, like, that's okay. Check. And who do I say sorry to at night when I've been a bad boy? Is say his name and okay. All right, good. And I go back to being my accountant job or whatever. Okay. Yeah, I'll just do that. You just go off. Right. And you're doing your thing. Okay. So, and then you zealously fight for the ideology of Jesus rather than like letting that reality actually saturate your disposition. So the disposition changes, and the way in which we approach things change. We can't, and that's why I make fun of those people who want to be so violent, little Christian theocrats. Is like, that's not the point. The guy who shows up in a food trough, he wants us to build beautiful things, but the way we do it matters, and it can't be based on sacrificing a human victim at the foundation of that bridge.
Well, you can't. Tyranny never works because you can't model tyranny. You can't model the time, and when you do model tyranny, you become the tyrannical father. Yeah. When you're modeling a tyrannical king, you become the tyrannical father, and you begin to tyrannize your loved ones, and so you now destroy your relationships there as well. It's destruction all the way down. What I've been saying quite often now is that liberalism is a civilization killer. And I'll just clarify this point. It's because that's what we're dealing with right now. The worm in the apple, we can call it liberalism today. 1,000 years from now, it'll be a different thing. It'll have a different name. It'll have slightly different ways. We can call it, I think James Lindsay, the only thing I think James Lindsay said of any value recently is that he's identified as Gnosticism. It's like, yes, like Gnosticism to liberalism to whatever else will be in the future. Don't be concerned about the worm. You have to understand what the worm is. You need to be able to pick the worm out and flick it away.
What if liberalism what if liberalism is exactly what God intended as a means to dissolve the old structures?
I believe this is all part of God.
Why do we have to think of these things? I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying, let's think about, why do these things have to be enemies when rather it's just a process? Like we're watching the pupa stage of the thing turn into a butterfly. This is a process. So I don't.
There isn't a hypothetical reality. There's just this reality.
Yeah, I don't look at the woke stuff with fear. I look at it like, okay, I see what you're doing there, God. Like you're letting the human species is starting to wake up to the scapegoat mechanism, and as it dissolves that scapegoat mechanism, it has to find new ways of identifying different and creating pockets of differentiation in order to maintain their sanity, so they don't go losing their mind. I get it because I see an anthropological framework of what's happening in the Bible. All we like sheep have gone astray, each unto our own way. And then that's such a brilliant statement, because the only way that you get lost as a sheep is when you think you're going your own way, right? You know what I mean? The moment you realize that you are a sheep is the moment you realize that the steps that you're making are in league with the herd that you're a part of. That's what that means, right? And yet nobody wants to face that fully. And I think if we're going to do great things, we have to face that fully. And it's almost like conservative reactionaries, they don't want to face that fully. They want to kind of put the lid on that and say, that's for another time. We've got all these goblins to fight. And that's it's like, no, you're going to give the goblins power by fighting them. They need you to do that. They don't need all you know what I mean? It's this weird thing.
That's why I keep saying you don't live in a civilization anymore, and people don't like it. People have a visceral reaction to it. But I'm doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on it because I think it's really important for people to get in their head. Like, I'm trying to break your frame. Like, you're living in an incorrect frame. 4 years ago, I started this little bit of a journey because I started to realize that my concept of reality was askew, and that I had all these things that I had lived my life, all these truths and accepted facts and all that stuff that I've been living with suddenly came completely apart on me. You know, from the George Floyd protest to having a spiritual experience, you know, all these things happen all one shot to me, and I became very, very aware that I was wrong about everything, and I had to rebuild my concept of reality in many ways. Like, you know, I'm not completely crazy, but like, you know, foundational things that I suddenly had a question and go, well, why do I know that? What? How the hell did you know that? Come up with this idea? Like, where are you producing this? You know, and if your answer to that is, well, I was told that by so and so, it's like, okay, well, who is that person? And if you take a look into that person, like, do you really want to follow this person? Is this honestly the mimetic model that you want to have? Like, no, right? So it challenges you. And the challenge here is that you need to break the frame and then get into the proper frame. And what I'm saying, the proper frame for civilization-minded people is the civil frame. And from there, we can build.
Yeah.
And this is where we're trying to onboard people. At first, it's the conceptual model. And then once we get enough people on board with the conceptual model, then we can get into the practical model.
The problem with
civility is also a paradox, too, because to do the great stuff, you got to wow it out. You have to wow it out, right? There's a wildness to it, which is paradoxical, you know, to be a civil person. To be a civil person is someone who understands the mimetic reciprocity of all relationships.
Yes.
That we have to be humble about that, recognizing I'm doing this show for a particular reason, but there's also other reasons too. I'm doing this for that. I'm saying this for that. I put on a coat because it makes my shoulders sharper, right? We do all these mimetic things, and to be aware of that and to be humble about that, right? Instead of trying to like be lost in the suit, right? We get lost in our suits. We think the suit's me, you know, it's a suit, right? And that humility is required, in my opinion, in order to kind of like raise up new leaders that can help galvanize the culture and give people hope. Not just these guys that go in the gym. Hey, I'm going to the gym and I'm a Christian. Look at me. I mean, come on, we're tired of this stuff. Go to the gym for a specific reason. If you have an outcome you need to achieve that's going to help you do, then do it. But go into the gym because you think girls will like you, and more importantly, guys will like you because you've got certain girls that you think they would like. Give me a break. That's gay. We don't have time for that. We have work to do. So everything should be oriented for a purpose that is greater than yourself. That's what self-emptying means.
Investment. This is what the big meaning crisis. Well, I'm thinking the massive meaning crisis that many of these talking heads all talk about, Jordan Peterson all down, is that there's nothing to invest in. You have generations of kids who have time and attention, tons of it. Technology produces time. So you have all this time and you have all this ability to give this attention to it. Yeah. And it's like, well, what are you giving it to? What does it produce? What is a podcast?
Mimetic is it? But mimetic, see, here's the thing. We've got to get over the mimetic thing, man. It's all about keeping up with the Joneses. If I email Jordan Peterson right now and said, I've got an anti-gravity device, can you give me help? He wouldn't respond right now. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. He's in a machine. He's, you know, I'm not condemning him. I've interviewed him, but you know what I'm saying? Like, well, how many followers do you have? You know, how much money do you have? Are you on the CAA, or, you know, are you part of this group? Are you on Rogan's show? You know, people don't want to be the first mover. That's the hardest part. And I, you know, that's the problem with so much of this stuff is like, in some ways, I feel like I've intentionally given myself a black eye repeatedly when it comes to the social game. Because I pick so many random disparate topics that I'm interested in that you can't possibly define what the hell it is that I'm trying to say if you don't kind of follow the train of thought that I'm going with this. What does seed oil have to do with anti-gravity, with, you know what I mean, like the stuff I talk about, like human sacrifice and what is going on, right? So it's confusing. But the point is we've got to have people who have the respect of God to more than man, because it's going to take that kind of wisdom to be able to find those folks who really have the talents they need to be brought together. Like people put people on the map when they're old and mature. They know to put young men on the map. And we don't have a lot of old, mature people right now in positions of leadership, let's say. You know what I mean? And we need that. We need folks that can take a young person and help kind of put them on the map, give them some wisdom, put them on a platform, and not hoard it. But they're all hoarding it because it's easy to grift. It's easy to make your millions of dollars and ride out to the sunset while nothing changes. But that's why, you know, what's that passage in the Bible that talks about young men dreaming dreams, you know? What does that say? Do you know the passage? How does it go? Anybody remember? Let the youth, the young men dreaming dreams. If you squelch that, you're not going to have civilization. You have to be able to cultivate, you know what I mean, and nurture and platform and come alongside that. And that takes humility, because that means you're going to have to look yucky and go with the people who are not already socially recognized with the crowd. You know what I mean? The crowd's going to only, what's that?
When you were talking about the conservative reactionary perspective, I think that I guess the problem with it is that it is fundamentally deconstructive. This is how it's embodying the same spirit of deconstruction versus construction. Everything begins with critique, and there's a bit of there's a meta here, because we're critiquing them, you know, but to build begins with construction.
Right.
If you don't have somewhere to build, you have to find somewhere to build. You have to construct a place to build. So you have to construct a place where you can construct. In order to construct something outside of yourself, you first have to begin the process of constructing within yourself. And this is where I don't like the term reactionary, because reactionary implies it's a passivity. It's a responsiveness, it's a receptiveness versus a proactive action of building, imposing yourself on the world. There's a masculine
That's the man in the arena. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have to ask permission, and you know, permission has already been given by our existence, and by being men. The permission has been given. The permission is given to us by God. Two things happened to me over the last month or so that radically changed me in some ways. Like, I leveled up. One was I fully accepted both Christ and my faith, and that seems weird, like you're saying, well, I'm observing Christian or Orthodox Christian, all that sort of, but you get to this point of like full acceptance. It's like, all right, Lord, I'm in your hands. I'm giving it, I'm putting myself fully in your hands. None of this half measures, none of this sidestepping, none of this like, well, maybe not today. Like, no. I'm all in now. And by doing that, it gives you this I finally understood what fearing God is. Like, I truly fear God now, and that the only person who I have responsibility to is God. I have responsibility to my family. I have all these other things. I'm not saying I'm going to abandon my children or like that, something like that. But in terms of telling the truth, I'll always tell the truth, because I fear God's judgment, not yours.
Yeah.
If my truth upsets you, or I'm saying it in a way that you don't like, deal with it. You know,
you'll deal with it, because if you did make it fault, God will chastise you for it in different ways.
Right. Yeah. I'll know when I miss the mark.
And if you said it in a good way and you weren't at fault, God will reveal that to you as well. So that's what you're trusting in God, right?
Exactly. And by trusting in God, by both accepting and fearing God at the same time, it gives you this incredible strength. It gives you a strength.
That's what positive mimesis is, every day practicing it. When someone insults you, when someone hurts you, when a news story happens, when someone, whatever, disrespects, whatever it is that bothers you, that makes you sin, that draws you to sin, someone tempts you, whatever it is, it's learning how to stop that matrix moment and then reverse it and throw it right back, because you've got the, I like fear of the Lord. I also like joy of the Lord, because the joy, have you ever, when you get so joyful about the fact that we're going to live forever, and that joyfulness and resurrection, that this planet Earth, God loves it. This was his home. And that when he made, in the Genesis account, he describes us as like the little, the way of a temple. He makes this universe like it's his little temple, and then we're like the little idol. You know, if you go to a temple, the little statue that represents the God, we're the little statue made of clay that's supposed to be representative of God, right? And then what happens when we're saved by Christ is not that we are so happy that we can, just hide and be really holy, and that's great. It's to be set apart to get back to creation, to building the city again, because Cain has been restored and redeemed. Jesus has redeemed Abel and Cain, and now we can be citizen Cain in the right way, and we can do the right things in the name of Christ with all humility, so that when they come at you and insult you, see, we can build on that. Trump is a master rhetorician, but he gets caught up in mimesis. We can build on that. What happens when Trump, if Trump was saturated in as wise as he is socially, if he had been saturated with Christian incarnational Girardian wisdom for decades, you know what I mean? With his skills, with his natural skill set, what he could do with that.
He'd be Putin.
Or with something, you know what I mean? He'd be something. It'd be something we would be like, holy crap. And so that's the whole idea of building on civilization. Somebody can do that now. You could do that, Matt. Jason, you can do that. Jason can be the new Henry Ford of Australia. Is that where Australia, right?
Yeah.
Or wherever you want to be. I don't know what your citizen identity is, but what the point is.
God
is
led
like,
me. Look, God led me here for a reason. I'm just trying to fulfill that reason.
Save the platypus. That's your role. Your job is to make sure the platypus.
Those things are
evolves.
nasty, man. They have. Do you know that platypus has a barb?
Yeah.
Near his ass, that if it stings you, you can fucking die. Screw those things. This is why I don't go outside the house. Like I observe from my window as much as possible.
Platypuses for my wrestling work. Just have them on chain, like a little pack of them running around.
Bring them, just throw them worms. Okay, gentlemen, we got to wrap this up because I got to get ready for Lou Perez coming on at 8:30. We're doing 2 streams today, ladies and gentlemen. 2 streams back to back. Why? Because I'm crazy and scheduling happens. That's why. And then I'm going to go to my wife's Nana's 90th birthday party. So
keep your voice good. You got to sing.
Can't even get drunk before Nana's birthday. I have to get drunk during, not after. All right. Last thoughts, gentlemen. Let's be brief. Which is not
none of us are good at that.
Next time someone tells me I like to talk, I'm going to bring up this episode along with Matt on Semiagog. God bless Semiagog. This is not a critique of him, but I'm going to bring up those 2 episodes and go, oh, really? Oh, I like to talk? Oh, really? There's other people who like to talk too. I'm just modeling David. That's all. All right, gentlemen. And thank you again. Thank you for everyone who's watching. Guys, the chat's been crazy. Numbers are great. We're boosting all across the board. Like, subscribe, do the thing, share it. Let people know. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, Lou Perez on at 8:30 tonight.
8:30 what time? What?
8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry.
Okay.
So we'll be talking to Lou Perez, the writer, comedian, and producer, about canceling cancel culture, and specifically within comedy. So that'll be a really interesting talk. Tomorrow at around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a live read of the Vengeful Sun article I put up on my Substack, and now on X Articles. I'll read that out and do an Ask Me Anything if anyone wants to join in. If you have your membership, please do that. And then we got a whole bunch of other things. Next Friday, I'll be talking to Father John Whiteford. Then we have Dimes and Dissident Mama coming up as well in this month. I'll be appearing a whole bunch of shows. Matt, we're going to do a patchwork thing. There's tons of stuff, guys. So please hit that notification button and let you know when we're doing a show, because it'll be tons of new content. We're picking up the pace. Turn up the volume.
Good job. Good work.
Stoking the fires. Good and professional. God damn it. All right. Matt,
don't listen to the liars. Seed oils are bad. I don't know these people, these disinfo people coming out. Watch out.
Okay. Final thoughts. Keep it brief, and then we'll get you.
I'm good. I'm good to go. I don't like doing the plug thing, so I just want if you want to help me build anti-gravity technology, give me a reach out and talk to me, because I've got something that I'm working on. So I need people to come and help. So that's what I want to be doing. So if you're excited about that, and you think you have a skill that can be involved in that in any way,
why would you be excited about anti-gravity? That's
because everybody needs a little weight loss, don't we?
Yeah, right. Some buoyancy in these troubled times. Matt?
Everybody needs to be a little lighter, right? Lighten up a little bit. That's our slogan. Lighten up.
My final thought. And then what? We build. If you'd like to build along with us, then the King Pill Discord is a good place to be. Subscribestar.com/kingpill will get you there for a short period of time longer. And then it's no longer going to get you there, because next week I'm going to be going on Academic Agent and on Orrin McIntyre. We are expecting an influx of new people, and we believe in strong immigration restrictions on our community of builders. So subscribestar.com/kingpill will get you there. We had a poppin' day in the King Pill or just the King Pill chat this morning. We were arguing about many different things, and it got pretty spicy. So yeah, we'd love to have you there, because we're also building. We're trying to build things, and we're developing a network of people who are of a similar mindset. And then I would also say, if you're interested in building anti-gravity technology, reach out to David, because this is where we build. This is where our minds need to be, especially if you're a young man. If you're a young man, then you need to build. If you're an old man, then you need to help young men build. This is a role. There's a role for all of us in all of this. So King Pilled is the YouTube channel. You can listen to the podcast or the show. We go live a couple times a week, and then on Twitter at Real King Pilled.
What we're doing over at King Pilled Discord. Thank you, Matt, for building that thing, so that way I don't have to. But it's part of building is also finding out who's doing something well and let them do it and just help them. It's just like join in and go, what's
That's
going
so
on here?
important. That's a very important thing to remember. You don't have to. That's mimetic comp. Oh, I got to do something to one up. No, just help somebody else that's doing something else. That's Christian humility.
Well, this is the difference. This is where we transition from a mindset to a grind set, and the grind set is a complete and total package, which we are developing. Go to the Discord, sign up. I'm there. A whole bunch of other people are there that you'll recognize. We have tons of great conversations. It is the think tank for our community. And as we're building that, we'd love to see you there. Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to play the outro. Please stick around. We'll talk a little bit afterwards. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I love you all. I really do appreciate you. Just one last reminder: you are not alone. Thank you.